As a new Christian, were you ever taught how to interpret the Bible? One of the most difficult things I come across when I talk to people about the Bible is that they never really have a proper methodology for interpreting the Bible. One of the probably the simplest ways to interpret the Bible is to say, well, everything I read in the Bible I interpret literally. Well, you don't. Nobody in the Bible interprets everything literally, in the sense that if the Bible talks about a giant woman standing on the moon and draped with the sun and 12 stars on her head, there isn't a giant woman out in the universe somewhere. I've used that illustration before. You go through the book of Revelation, you hear people talk about how it's the most, this commentary in the book of Revelation is the most literal commentary you've ever read. Well, it isn't. You read numerous passages in the Bible and you'll see that there isn't a strict literalism attached to it. The word literal actually it means to interpret something according to its literature. And that's not always an easy thing to do. We understand it in our own day. You go and you watch a movie like Shrek, or if you watch a movie like Galaxy Quest, and there's all types of literary allusions in those movies. And if you don't understand the backdrop to all of those jokes and nursery rhymes and popular culture experiences and so forth, you just don't get it. If you didn't grow up on the Star Trek, you probably won't get Galaxy Quest very well, and to see a lot of the funny things that go on in there. On the surface, it seems funny because of some of the jokes, but to really get it, you have to know something of the backdrop of what the story is about. Now, that's no different from the Bible. It's no different from any piece of literature. You just can't dive into the Bible on your own and just say, well, I'm going to interpret this literally. And let me give you an example of this. The very first verses of Matthew's Gospel. So here we start at the very beginning of Matthew's Gospel. And it says, the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. And someone says, well, that's so easy. You just interpret that literally. And when you look at it more closely, that isn't what's going on here. If you had no understanding of the Old Testament at all, that there was even an Old Testament and the backdrop of the Old Testament, you really couldn't figure out what that passage is saying. You wouldn't get the importance of the passage. Why does Matthew lead off with that particular passage? What's he trying to do? Why this genealogy? There are all types of backdrop questions that you have to ask in order to understand the very first verse of the New Testament. And so when we come to a passage of Scripture, we have to come to that passage with an understanding of all of the different elements that make a particular text meaningful. So if you look at this particular passage, the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ. So who is this Jesus Christ? What does Jesus mean? Is there some understanding of this particular name? The name in Hebrew is Joshua, and it means Jehovah is salvation. There's some significance to that. Christ, Messiah, the Anointed One. Where does that come from, and what's the significance of that? The son of David. Well, whose son? The son of my son David, Calvin? No, that isn't what son of David is. It's some other son of David. It's not just any son of David, it's a particular son of David. Now, how do you know about that son of David? Well, you've got to go back in the Old Testament and not just find a text that says David, but you have to understand the entire background of David. You have to understand the entire reason as to why the story of David is important in the Bible. It's not just a history lesson. When David goes up against Goliath, it's not a story, that particular story isn't in there that simply says, God can defeat the giants in your life. It's not that God can't defeat the giants in your life. That's not the reason the story is in there. It gives backdrop to why this particular genealogy is important and why Jesus Christ is the Son of David and why that is significant to the New Testament. Why does the New Testament begin that way? Then it goes on even further back. It says the son of Abraham. And so why is that significant? What case is being made here? And you can only know that against the backdrop of the Old Testament. You get to Luke's genealogy and you see it's different. In fact, it takes you all the way back to Adam, who is the Son of God. Now, we go through Scripture like this, and oftentimes we come to the Bible with a particular system already developed. And we don't really have any practice of interpreting the Bible for ourselves. I want to bring to your attention a book I've been reading. It's called Deep Exegesis, The Mystery of Reading Scripture by Peter Leithart. Peter Leithart used to work here at American Vision, and he's a very brilliant guy, very aware of these kind of the literary aspects of the Bible, and uses illustrations from other pieces of literature in order to make these cases. The illustration that he used about Shrek is not from me, it's from him. This book, Deep Exegesis. Exegesis means to extract from the text what is there. But Peter points out there's a bit of eisegesis that goes on as well. That is, putting things into the text that aren't apparent on the surface reading. Like I just put into the text of Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, other aspects of the Bible that make this text understandable. And we do this all the time. What we have to be careful about doing is putting things into the text that are not there, and you can't find them anywhere else in Scripture. And I want to say that this is not an easy book to get through, because he covers an awful lot of ground, and it deals with a number of literary connections, and it's not only deep exegesis, but is deep thinking as well, which this is why I recommend it to you. These are the types of books we need to read. You'll get a lot of good information here. I think will help you understand the Bible a little better. You may feel frustrated because you've never really been taught how to interpret the Bible. You were given, when you were very young in the faith, maybe a Bible with study notes. And I remember that's what happened to me. I remember the Harper Study Bible. And those notes became a crutch for me. Instead of trying to figure out what the text had to say and to look at the text in terms of other places in Scripture, I ended up just kind of going down to the notes until one time in a Bible study that I was in, I had confused what was in the note with what was actually in the text. And so Bible studies, while I don't want to say dismiss study Bibles completely, but I do want to say that they can be a crutch, and they really don't help necessarily with your understanding of the Bible. Now, in tomorrow's show, I want to just give you a couple of examples of how to see the broad scope of Scripture and how all of this fits together. And if you start looking for these kind of literary connections all the way through Scripture, and you begin to see how the New Testament draws from the Old Testament and shows that there is something new going on in the person and work of Jesus Christ, and that the emphasis of the New Testament is on the person and work of Jesus Christ. It's no longer on the nation of Israel. Nation of Israel was put into place to bring about, just like in Revelation chapter 12, the woman standing on the moon and draped with the sun and the stars. This is a depiction of Israel. She's giving birth to the new covenant in the person and work of Jesus Christ. I want to give you a couple of examples of this in tomorrow's show. So tune in, and we'll look at a few passages to show how this interconnection that actually makes the Bible to be the Bible, it is in fact one book. It is the book.
American Vision is proud to present this year's Worldview Super Conference, July 21st through 24th at North Metro Church, Marietta, Georgia. For more information, visit conference.americanvision.org. That's conference.americanvision.org.